Good morning and welcome to Nadex Morning Analysis, where we look at some potential hotspots in the markets for the day. It is August 23rd, coming into the end of summer. Very strange. Definitely very strange feeling. I can't believe we've got 1 week until Labor Day. I think that's right. If I looked at the calendar right. We got Brian back this morning.
Two
Brian,
weeks.
welcome back.
2 weeks. It's late this
2
year.
weeks. Okay.
Two weeks.
My calendar is all way off.
Yeah, the only
in
reason
my
I know
head.
that is because the kids don't go back to school till after Labor Day. So
Ah.
everybody else is like, see you in September. It's like, yeah, but ours is like 8 days into September. So,
It's
and then it's right on
September.
top of, is it Yom Kippur? Is Yom Kippur
Yeah,
the first
that's
one?
actually right. Rosh Hashanah is actually next week. I
That's
mean,
what the
it's
one.
like it's
I
all.
can't get them all
Well, no,
correct. Yeah.
at first it's the New Year, then it's the Day of the Atonement, which which is 10 days later. So, yeah, I'm all messed up. Anyhow, I'm Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. We do have Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple back today. Brian, it's good to have you back. We missed you on Friday.
Yeah, it was a day. Everybody else knows it out there. Everybody knows that my wife is expecting. He almost came early at 33 weeks, but the power of pharmaceuticals managed to keep him in. So hopefully the wife comes home tonight and she will be. She said it's like jail. She hasn't been able to move out of the bed for 3 days, and I was like, it's going to be like that at home too. Warden Brian is going to be on the
Right.
whistle.
Hey, yeah, uh, that's a lot. That's a lot, but I'm glad the baby's getting baked some more. So, oh, all right, let's get back into
Yeah,
that.
three completely off your talk track. You're like, babies, what? Babies?
You know what? It's just kind of like that. It's a Monday. What do you want on a Monday,
I know.
late in summer? All
Well,
right.
there's a lot of movement today, though, so
Yeah.
it was a big
So we
day.
want to get into this. Before we jump into it, I do need to share the disclaimer. Trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone. That any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And lastly, this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. And as Brian mentioned, we do have a lot to cover today. We do want to jump into it. And just briefly, we've got, this is what everyone's going to be talking about all week. So, number one, it's the Jackson Hole Symposium at the end of the week, Thursday and Friday. That is where all the Fed folks get together and they start talking about policy. It was supposed to be part virtual, part live. It's all virtual. And I think the reason that it's all virtual is the concern over the spread of COVID-19 Delta variant. We are going back into all masks in Chicago. It's here we go again. Now, what that means, people are concerned about how that might be impacting the economy. It certainly is. It might put a damper on some of the Fed's plans to speed up
Well, start. They haven't
or
started
start
yet.
right. They were going to start tapering sooner. They might not be able to taper so soon, which is just slowly removing some of that stimulus. So it looks like today that's what the markets are kind of thinking. We're going to run through this. You could see gold punching through that resistance level we had, and even punching up above the 1800 mark. So we've got gold up, we've got oil up, and then we've got equities up, and we've got the U.S. dollar finally showing a little bit of weakness as people expect that maybe they won't start that taper as soon. So, Brian, let me flip it over to you and
Mhm.
then let's get into some of these charts, the gold chart, the oil chart,
Yeah.
where people could be looking to potentially trade on all this.
Yeah, and for a typical Monday, it's this the market's actually moved a lot. You're seeing that the euro dollar's up a little bit, right? 37 on a Monday morning is not bad, showing some dollar weakness in there. Pound dollar's up big, and they had some interesting data that came out earlier today at about 4:30 a.m. But pound dollar's up 76, pound yen is up 130, which is great. Dollar yen up a little bit. Aussie dollar up 66, which again is also kind of being again, remember Aussie dollar is a proxy for gold. Gold is up. Typically, Aussie dollar follows it. Dollar Swiss up slightly. Dollar CAD down 94. And if you guys remember from last Thursday, we talked about how oil was just getting absolutely hammered, but when oil turned and flipped, that the dollar CAD would also follow. Oil flipped in the overnight. So again, Had you been following us last week, we gave you a level in that one. We'll show it to you in a chart where oil flipped. And again, CAD came right from that area. Now, the CAD level was a little bit harder to grab. It was a 4-hour from kind of a way back time frame. But again, we were looking for that turn. And once the one turned, you knew that the other was going to follow. So there was definitely ways to get that one. But so far this morning, the news has been interesting. The flash manufacturing and flash services has been pretty telling. And remember, yes, there's a lot of uncertainty about COVID and the Delta variant. There'll be another 6 variants after this, so it's kind of just. I think a lot of it is the not knowing aspect of it. But when we look at where economies are right now, interesting enough, I mean, the French number was a little bit higher than expected. The German number, manufacturing was down, but the services aspect and that's what's always lagged behind, was actually up, which surprised a lot of people. And then the Euro manufacturing number was down, but the pound number was up, showing that manufacturing was kind of increasing inside of the UK. So again, that's probably where the pound strength is coming from. And we get the US numbers coming in at 945 today. So, it's one of those ones that there's some reds, there's some greens, kind of one of those things that you got to think about.
Wobbling a little bit. It's regional.
And I would say that what's important to understand is, are we going to go into a lockdown phase where kids are staying home from school and businesses are closing and all those things? I actually don't know at this point. And like I said, it depends on the narrative that you're talking about. It's that everybody get vaccinated. The only people that are dying now are the ones that are unvaccinated. It's like, okay, are we going to, but then you're hearing about breakthroughs. Yeah, breakthroughs can happen, So kind of one of those things. It's like, which one are you going to take? Does everything need to be locked down, or are we only worried about the 30? I mean, we talked about those numbers a couple of weeks ago about how in the the kind of older kind of senior bracket, 93% of people are vaccinated. Okay, so are we no longer worried about those people?
And they're even getting their third shot.
Yeah, they're getting their third, and there's other countries. Yeah, and that'll come up at Jackson Hole, I'm sure. Because remember, it's equality for all, except if you live outside the United States. We're going into our third vaccines where there's other countries that don't even have their first. And we're talking about how things are spreading. Guess what? If you're saying the unvaccinated can spread COVID, well, okay, great. There are countries that do not even have their first dose. They are at high risk of spreading it and making it mutate even more. But yeah, we're doing our third vaccines here. So
we need to do it all.
Yeah, that will definitely come up at Jackson Hole this week later on. That's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So there's 3 days. And again, it's not like there's a news release time. There'll be different headlines that come out of that one. And we'll kind of see. Like I said, I expect there to be kind of a decent amount of movement the first 2 days by Wednesday. And then into Thursday, I expect a lot of these things to kind of go flatline on us because we don't have, we have some news releases that are there. But, again, it's going to be the big headlines. I don't think they're shutting the world back down again like we did last time. We've been able to manage it this way. When you look at the actual numbers, like I said, I think it's like the 65 to 75 range, 93% of people in the United States already have that vaccine or already have the shots. So we're not going to shut it down for 7% of the population. They've already shown that before. So it's kind of like, what do we do with tapering? Masks are one thing, but I don't think we're shutting back down again. So, I do believe that there will be a lot of days where you see big up and then big back down again. It's where it's like, yeah, it's bad, but we're not doing anything about it, and then it'll come right back down again. It's kind of what we're going to see.
Yeah, and which is what we're going to see. So let's jump into some of that volatility. Mm-hmm. I think gold is probably the first one to.
Yeah, this is. Let me drop back down with 30 minutes. Yeah, so all these drawings are still from Thursday. I try to keep things on there, but you're seeing really, this initial kind of push right here happened yesterday or last night, basically with the open, and again. Anytime there's negative news, the first thing for inflation that people think about is how long are we going to be running hot? If there's any type of threat at all that maybe we won't do tapering or we're going to let tapering go longer because there's still problems, all those things are fueling the fire for inflation. So again, it's been a nice push up again. We knew that the 72 area here, the 72.72 was an area of buyers. It didn't quite make it. It got it to 72.75, and that's been an area where we've seen it hit before. Now, we did push up, and there was a level here, a kind of an aggressive level, and it hit it and kind of bounced and started the base, which says, this is going through. Now we're kind of that big level. We're right at that 1,800 mark, and it's at 1799.06 right now. 1,800 is huge because it's a big psychological level. It's got double zeros in there. If it breaks and truly goes above this, again, we talked about this kind of break above what would happen here about, really kind of pushing forward and, again, an exaggerated kind of piece in there, that kind of rollover. But the media is going to take on this and be like, we are back above 1,800 in gold. The bulls are going to get back in there and say, we finally broke through 1,800 again. There's a lot more buying pressure that comes back in at 1,800. So it's kind of one of those things. But what we've seen today,
we're
again, we finally
at 1,802 at the moment.
Okay, yeah. I mean, TradingView, right? Again, they're all different. Again,
Right.
depending on TradingView is not delayed and it has it at 17.99 and 50 cents. So we're like right there. Um, and that's coming off the
Yeah.
futures contract. So it's a big number. They're going to talk about it. U.S. traders are going to come into this, and remember, what we had seen in the last few weeks was that we'd see the European session push gold down, and the U.S. session send it back up again. The European session is, again, this slowing right here, this pullback. Right there is the European session open. It's the nothing but send it straight up again. So people are going to see this and say, "Hey, gold's up 1% today. Inflation, is it here?" And again, looking at that, the cryptos are also up over 2 and 3%, depending on if you're talking about Bitcoin or Ethereum. So, and even Dogecoin is up 2.5%. So it's kind of one of those ones. If the inflation game is back, let's go. Gold and cryptos. Here it is. So I still think and as I've said before, I do think finding good buying opportunities in gold is important. I do think that it deserves to be higher than it actually is. I like the fact that it's above 1800, but I would like it to form a level of stabilization instead of being an area where we saw sellers step in here. I don't want it to start basing now that we're at the U.S. Open and then kind of roll back down again. Because remember, if they say, "Oh, we're going to lock everything down, we're going to do no schools again," then that kind of is like, then they're gonna,
Right.
it would cause it to roll back down again because again, people are not spending. We go into lockdown mode. There's no inflation in that time frame. It goes back into survival mode. But if
And and again, I'm with you. I don't think we're going to be going that crazy, but there's going to be some restrictions and limitations,
yeah,
and
I'm
we'll
worried
see
about the
how it
school thing.
manifests. I
Yeah,
mean,
for me, my biggest concern is school shutting back down again as a parent of two, and that will
yeah.
throw a big monkey wrench into the market. It's only going to take a couple schools getting it and Delta spreading and saying, "Hey, this is way too contagious." Masks obviously don't work. Um, for them to
I'll
be able
tell
to
you,
shut them down
my,
again.
my wife was just down in New Orleans this past week for a few days with our son, and if you wanted to do anything there, you wanted to go into a restaurant, you had to, you just had to have proof of vaccination.
Mhm.
You still had the masks were still on, but so I think you're going to see different. It might manifest
Yeah.
itself in different
Best meme of
ways.
the weekend was somebody complaining about the mask, saying you walk into the restaurant or
And
you're
then take your
required
mask
a
off.
mascot in just to take it off and eat.
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah.
with the gold, by the way, keep an eye on these binary options. Definitely a way to play this with the volatility. What Brian's talking about. It's a tricky one, but at least with the binary options, limited risk, limited reward. Uh, and you know what you're getting into. And if we're going to be seeing some volatile moves and seeing it jump around, there is going to be some opportunity, particularly in some of those shorter durations when things start moving around. So I would. Oh, good lord! I just Ernest, you're killing me. You're cracking me up with your comments. The horse dewormer stock. That's
Yeah. The fact that they had to say that though this weekend
okay.
was kind of surprising. I was like,
I'm not going to even get into that.
yeah.
I'm not going to even get into that. Let's take a look. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
and let me say real quick on gold too, guys. Remember, it's been bursting up very, very far. Any type of negative news, or remember the inflation numbers that we have seen have been going back in the down direction. Which, if they start saying this week, "Hey, listen, we told you the inflation was all going to be transitory. It's all going to disappear." Here's all the data. It's showing you now. And again, looking at the data later this week, we're seeing that in some of the GDP number. Actually, not the GDP number. In a couple, is one of the there must be yellow releases. But there is trading opportunity out here if this starts to top and put some type of a piece in there. There's no, unfortunately, weekly call spreads we can use, but there are knockouts in there. And there's knockouts at 1808, 1818, 1828, and 1838, all sitting within from this range all the way up into this range. So, oops, right to 38, which is right there. So there are 4 knockout contracts sitting up in this range after this large burst. And again, not that this can't burst for a while, but there's always pullback opportunities here when this comes through. And the question is, are we going to go all the way up to 1900 with no pullbacks? No. So there could be some really nice trading opportunity, especially if we start to hear about that transitory inflation saying, yeah, we're seeing all the inflation go back down again. And on top of that, we have the Delta variant. That combination there leads us to turn and roll back down again in gold. So look for trading opportunity there. Hold on, Jim. You wanted to cover, what are we doing next?
I think let's take a quick look at oil because it finally did rebound. I mean, it got
Yep.
demolished. It did bounce off its $62 level, and we're up near 64. So and it's basing. And with that, I think we could take a peek at the CAD, just because it's something we
Yeah,
had spoken about. And then we could
yeah.
call it a morning. Yeah.
So last week, again, this is what gold has looked like. This push all the way down, all the way down, all the way down. And we talked about the 62 level last week. Now, again, I haven't updated these since Thursday. I don't check this out. This is purely my desktop for trading, with this group. As you can see, and again, we bounced right off that 62 mark on Friday. And then came through and we opened the week in that level. When I talk about Sunday gaps and Sunday trading opportunities, I've mentioned it a number of times that we talk about, the weekend gaps are great trades because, again, it reacts to the weekend. It's low trading volume. We talk about session open, and there's always a time when there's an influx of money coming in. This is a great trading opportunity. So, seeing this move $4 really since the open yesterday. I mean, I don't, if you're not in, you didn't catch it. I don't know what to tell you. Right now, I'd be looking for some type of a pullback. We have a small level at 64.51. It's a little bit of a base, and again, it was touched and kind of rolled back to the downside. We have an old area of interest higher, but and the reason I bring this up of where we are right now is because remember, we keep having these kind of doubles, and I can draw it over here as well. There's 3, there's 8:30 to there. There's the 8:30 candle. Change that to the right color, and again, the reason I keep drawing these is because I want you guys to see the pattern. Trend line. So we were down, and then again, it ended up being down, but there was the retracement back up again.
Right.
And today, here's our 3 o'clock, right there, to 8:30 is right there. So very easy to figure out which direction we're in. So everybody knows oil's up, $3 and, or I'm sorry, 3.55%. Here's the question: are we going to do one of these now, back to the downside,
and just retrace it after?
Yeah, retrace it, right? I mean, because we're starting here. Do we bring it right back down to this level, right? So it's an obvious up day. Change this one to orange. So we do have a level to slightly higher, and would I expect to see maybe a little bit of a push higher? Sure. Yeah, I mean, we have a tested level. We're kind of in an area now. We've been kind of fighting sellers in that level. But
Yep.
when everybody sees something up so big and they're like, oh my God, it's up 3.33%, looking at this one, and again, this is why I use some of these things. Right now, it looks like the daily ATR, with all the volatility that it had last week, the daily ATR right now is $2.17. So, right now it's at $2 just in the overnight session, and that's only because it started to pull back down, and we're down.
It already done its ATR.
It's already done. Yeah, it's already done. It's down 44 cents in the last half hour. So tack that on of the $2. We're at $2.44. We were over basically a single ATR just in the in that overnight session.
Yep.
So
with that, again, it's one of those things. Watch these binary options. I mean, and it's with some of these volatile markets and the way things are swinging around, the binary options are an interesting way to play the volatility. Gold and oil, both hot spots in the market. Before we wrap it up, because we also see equities up across the board, only because we're just talking about oil, and you had mentioned it earlier. Do you mind just doing the quick dollar CAD to finish it up for this morning?
Yeah. Sorry, I was putting my closest knockout bracket. So Todd, you need to work on this for me. It's with all this movement, there's the closest knockout ceiling for us. So it's got a bit room to run there.
Yeah.
CAD. So yeah, here's the dollar CAD, and again, we mentioned the dollar CAD. This is a 4-hour zone. You would have had to been a little bit more advanced to be able to grab the zone there. It was based off of a 4-hour level from weeks and weeks ago, so it's been a while since it's been up there. We talked about having an area where it reversed, and I mentioned in the past that there are different ways. If you can't figure out, if you don't have the supply and demand zones out there, or maybe your extensions or retracement tool wasn't able to find things, we knew that this was going to turn as soon as oil turned. Oil had a very clear, easy to read level where it was going to flip. And as soon as it did, remember, the reason why oil's going up, right? And you're seeing this one flip is because as oil gets more expensive, it helps the Canadian economy. So the dollar CAD here is the Canadian dollar strengthening. Okay. Their economy is based off of oil, right? They're not big. They don't really like us too much right now because of a lot of things we've done with like canceling the pipeline. Because again, that's the main source of their income for their economy. It was what it's driven off of. But whenever it moves, it brings a lot of strength. So this is quite a large move from where it peaked. We're talking about 227 pips on that one. That's a lot. It only has a daily ATR currently of about 89, so it's over 2 days worth of movement. And again, you can see that it was basically 3 days of big movement. It was one big day of oil, another big touch, and then a rollover today in there. But here's that one little pattern. Again, I'm going to close it out on this one. and I'm going to zoom it in so you guys can see this. I mentioned that when you're looking for things like this where oil is turning, or if gold starts moving, the Aussie dollar moves the same thing, that if you're not 100% sure how to figure out the zones and you haven't been watching me for a long time, or you're not a student, there's something called a color change that I've talked about, right? I talk about having a red, a green, and then a red again tends to be a confirmation that the tide has turned, right? Or the trend
The
has
sellers have
changed.
come in.
So the entry in this case would have been the closing below here when the green doesn't go as high. So it's just an easy pattern. If you don't know, it's just one of those things. If you ever see, and again, vice versa in the other direction, when this ends,
Green,
if you see a green and a red pullback that doesn't break below, and then you have another green above, and again, it's another sign that the trend has potentially changed there. So it's just a simple thing. So again, not everybody would have grabbed this one, but I said, hey, look out for it. And you'll notice there was not really another one that qualifies in here all the way down as this road higher, right? So I guess there kind of was one right here when it first started, but that's still in the sideways movement we're talking about during this time frame here. So again, it's just one of those things. It's another one of those like little added tools that you can throw into it. I would say right now, again, as oil is again hitting an area where there's some buyers, there's not really a clean level because this was very, very grindy last week. But I would say most likely this is probably going to go back up again for a couple different reasons. I mean, you could have the U.S. dollar stepping in with some strength, kind of retracing what we've seen in the overnight. Monday morning dollar strength has been very, very common. That sends us higher. Oil goes back down again, also sends this one higher because it's also weak for the Canadian dollar. So just watch it. Again, overall demand, manufacturing being lower also kind of messes with oil. So a lot of factors that are in this one.
All right, so keep an eye on that Canadian dollar as oil moves around as well. So just looking for those hot spots and looking for those trading opportunities. With that, we went a little long today, but we were also chit-chatting about some other fun stuff. Any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Any questions for Brian? He is also very accessible. You can email him. Email Brian at support@keeptradingsimple.com. As we're starting off the week, what are we looking at? We're waiting for Jackson Hole. We're going to wait and see. But the markets are sort of anticipating a little bit that maybe the reducing of stimulus and trying to do it earlier, they might not be able to do it quite as earlier as they were looking at, as we wait and see how the economy recovers from this COVID spread. And so we're seeing some volatility pushing gold and oil higher, the dollar seeing a little bit of weakness, but equities catching some wind and all looking to open in the green. With that, Brian and I will be back again tomorrow morning. Want to wish everyone good luck in the markets. We'll catch you then. Thanks, everyone.